guys, and welcome back to Sensible Soul. So, have you ever been curious about tarot cards? Maybe you've been a little nervous about getting a reading? Or maybe you've gotten a reading before and didn't really understand how a deck of cards was able to predict so much about your past, present, and future. So, first things first, instead of thinking of tarot cards as predictions of the future like they are so commonly thought of, I think instead it would be better if we thought of them as reflections and projections of our current life circumstances. And what I mean by this is the future is not set in stone. Your future can change just as quickly as you can change your mind in this very moment. So with a reflection of the present in mind, a tarot reader can then make interpretations based on the symbols in the cards as to what kind of experiences you may be attracting to yourself or that you might be manifesting in the future. And if the outcome seems favorable, then this can be really validating and really reassuring. This can ease a lot of the confusion as to whether or not you're on the right path, or this can ease a lot of the anxiety about how things are going to work out in the future and that sort of thing. So on the flip side, if a tarot reading kind of seems to be negative, then a good tarot reader can give you advice to kind of help you adjust and focus your trajectory towards a more positive outcome. I wanted to explain this because it's really important that when you get tarot readings, you don't form any kind of expectations or attachments to what you think the future is supposed to be like. And that way, it allows your heart and mind to be open to the possibilities of the future rather than limiting yourself with an expectation or anything like that. So that being said, how exactly do tarot cards work? How are they able to produce accurate information? I first want to recommend that you check out my video on Synchronicity because it ties directly into that concept. So you see, synchronicities, as we've discussed, are meaningful coincidences where there's an uncanny juxtaposition between your inner world and your outer world. And when we refer to your inner world in this case, we're referring to your consciousness, not just your conscious mind, because your consciousness extends far beyond that. It's our intuition that allows us to access this deeper part of our minds. And your consciousness, or your higher self, whatever you want to call it, those deeper parts of you already know the answers to the questions that you're seeking. There's a subconscious part of you that also knows the order of the cards. So, when I shuffle the cards, I attempt to connect with that deeper part of my consciousness. And then I'll think of whatever questions I may have or whoever I'm reading for may have, and then shuffle the cards as I do this. And so that way, my thoughts or the questions I have is synchronizing with my outer world or the shuffling of the cards. And then I think to myself, I will receive all the guidance I need and begin pulling cards from there. And so that is how you can kind of create, in a way, a synchronicity so you can receive accurate information from that deeper part of your own mind. So your intuition, as I mentioned before, allows you to connect to that deeper part of your consciousness. And your intuition also allows you to interpret the cards. The cards themselves are symbols for abstract concepts, and discerning the meaning of the cards can kind of be a lot like interpreting a dream. So when you're interpreting the symbols in a dream, it really depends on the dreamer, right? And when you're interpreting information from the symbols in the card, it really depends on the reader because it is a very intuitive, kind of personal process. That's why a strong intuition is a really valuable tool for reading and interpreting the cards. Personally, I kind of find this part similar to storytelling. You're kind of trying to see what story the cards are trying to weave together, what kind of narrative they're trying to create. So now let's get down to the cards, shall we? There are 78 cards in a standard tarot deck, 56 cards for the minor arcana and 22 for the major arcana. The 56 minor arcana cards tend to deal with the more everyday, day-to-day activities. And just like in a standard deck of playing cards, you have the different suits, the hearts or the clubs or whatever like that. In tarot, you have the different suits, which each correspond with a different element, which gives a little bit of insight as to the meaning of the card just right off the bat. So for example, you have the swords, and the swords correspond with the element of air. So a lot of the times when the swords come up, it deals with a lot of mental issues that require, your sharp perception and that sort of thing. You also have the pentacles, which correspond with the element of earth. So the pentacles tend to deal with a lot more earthly matters and material and physical things. Then you have the cups, which, as I'm sure you can guess, corresponds with the element of water. And so this tends to deal with a lot more emotional feeling, sometimes even romantic, things like that. And then last but not least, you have the wands, also known as the rods or staffs in some tarot decks. And this corresponds with the element of fire. So this tends to deal a lot with intuition, inspiration, and things like that. So additionally, just like in a standard deck of playing cards, you have the kings and the queens and the jack or whatever. In a tarot deck, you have what are known as the court cards. And the court cards also tend to come in kings, queens, princess, prince, all kinds of things. I've seen daughter, mother, father. It really varies on the tarot deck. But what's so interesting about these 16 cards is that they correspond with the 16 Myers-Briggs personality types. What these cards really represent are the archetypes that are the foundation, the core of personality. And so when you encounter a court card, they can either represent a specific archetype in you or a specific type of person that you might encounter in your everyday life. And then next we have the 22 cards of the Major Arcana. And the Major Arcana deals more with the more serious aspects of life, whereas the minor dealt with the more everyday, day-to-day things. The Major Arcana tends to deal more with things like fate, destiny, purpose, meaning, those types of things. So when these cards come up, they tend to require a little bit more attention. What the Major Arcana symbolizes is the cycles of the archetypal hero's journey. And so you might be kind of familiar with this if you've ever read Joseph Campbell's A Hero with a Thousand Faces. You might know it as the book that inspired Star Wars. But that book outlines, just like the Major Arcana does, the sort of journey of the archetypal hero. You see, there's a reason that typically when we watch movies, we cheer on the hero, the main character, or when a movie has a good ending, we interpret that ending as good. It's because when we see these things play out before our eyes, we recognize our own true destiny, our soul's true calling. And so it's the purpose of the Major Arcana cards to help guide us through the cycles and ultimately guide us through our own hero's journey. So I hope this gave you a better idea of the cards and kind of helped demystify it a little bit for you. If you're interested in seeing these bad boys in action, then go ahead and check out my full moon reading video. It's something a little new that I'm doing on my channel, and I want to also give a big shout out to Royal Mystic Tarot for one, giving me the idea, and two, giving me the much needed encouragement that I needed to try this new thing on my channel out. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. If it's something that you'd be interested in seeing more of or less of, I don't know, just let me know, because honestly guys, I think the tarot is a really useful tool. There's really nothing to be scared of when it comes to tarot readings or anything like that, because they usually have something really interesting to say. If you want to see what the cards have to say for you, then I will see you for my full moon reading. Bye guys!
What do I mean by reality?